talk about some bolder issues of marketing. Now, I told you we'd talk about red and blue. Have you guys studied that enough to know the difference? All right, well tell me, Kimberly, tell me the difference between red and blue oceans.
Red oceans is where there's high competition. So red ocean is competing where there's your competitors are. You're all kind of fighting over the same market and the same customers. And blue ocean is where you create a value and you kind of leave that competition, try to make them relevant and go after a new market, give them meet their need in a new way that no one else is.
Good. I'm trying to condense that book down to, sort of a mature growth market versus differentiation, and that's sort of what you look at. Now, Coca-Cola is a mature growth market. They just happen to have a huge base, so when they grow 3%, they grow a lot, or 5%, and they still dominate the market, and they spend a lot in advertising, and they do the things that a blue ocean company doesn't do. I mean, they're on TV and they're on radio, and I got a note because I have some Coke stock, and they're so excited because they're doing social media. Well, about time. I mean, it's been out there for a while. So the key is when you look at that. But let me tell you an interesting concept. I wrote this out because it came about when I was looking through my notes. This is a food for thought for you. Now, whether you like food for thoughts, this is one you need to put in the back of your mind because, let's see where I am. Either I have a successful marketing people spend little time on history of the brand. So a lot of marketing people want to beat up the brand. What did we do? And all that. So successful marketing people spend little time on history of the brand. Rather, they see their role, which should be your role, as keeping their products in tune with the latest fashions. So successful marketing people spend little time on history of the brand. Rather, they see their role as keeping their products in tune with the latest fashions. However, here's the important part. There's always a however, those segues. Some make the mistake in focusing on what happened versus why it happened. And if I want to encourage you in the marketing end, you got to know why things happen. Why did they happen? Now, maybe a professor would challenge that, but that's a real key thing if you're going to be a change agent out there. Let me ask you a few questions. Number one, why even have a marketing strategy? I know you studied it for a whole semester. We'll get back to these as time would allot. Does marketing share matter? If so, what investment are you willing to make over what period of time? So if you think market share is valuable, it takes dollars to pump market share. So you got that? Takes money. Number four, is pricing part of a marketing strategy, or does it really belong in the finance department? Should your advertising focus on the customer, the consumer, or the purchaser? All right, who hasn't participated yet? Do you want to participate? Yes, you do. Thank you. Now, what I wanted to look up here, did you get those three terms that I just put out there? Write them down. Those are really, really important. Purchaser, consumer, and customer. All right, Julie, give me the definition between the three. Or maybe they're all the same.
Purchaser, customer.
And customer.
Oh, consumer and customer?
Customer, consumer, purchaser.
Purchaser, they all sound kind of the same. Let's see. Purchaser will be somebody who buys the product.
Okay.
But customer is someone who not only buys the product, but who also is interested in maybe quality.
Okay, let's go to the next one, consumer.
Consumer
Does what to the product?
Consume?
Yeah. Anybody else want to take a shot at those three? You did very well, girl. Anybody want to take a shot at the three? Consumer, customer, purchaser. Joaquin, you got an idea on those three?
I think the purchaser would be the one who buys the product, consumer would be whoever utilizes and uses the product, and customer would be who benefits from the product.
That's very good. You ever thought about that benefit thing? That's good. See, what it really is there is an intertwining of the three. See, mother may go to the store, Vaughn's, which by the way is the customer for Coca-Cola or Monster, right? And she's the purchaser and she buys the Hanson juice boxes. And she takes them home and the little ones consume them at your house, right? Right? So do you see how those three tie in? So not necessarily is it that way all the time, but the purchaser could be the consumer. And that's the Monster business. See, that young person on a skateboard goes into 7-Eleven, purchases it and consumes it in general terms. I just want you to be sure you got the, so when we start talking about it, let's not interchange them, let's try to keep them separate. So you got that, okay, solid? Now, let me ask you this. I think it's one of your test questions, so I better be careful. That may answer it. When you look at things and you're going to do a marketing plan and you're going to do some research, who are you focusing on? The customer, the purchaser, or the consumer? Well, it could be all. But if you were going to do a plan right out of the chute, who would you want to satisfy? Okay, so purchaser and consumer sort of walking hand in hand. You know, there's an old adage in the sales arena. Nothing happens until somebody sells something. And so you don't sell anything, basically, until somebody buys something. So I guess what I'm trying to say to you is put customers first when you're starting to look at your need and benefit cross on the graph. Customer comes first. And if you're going to develop a product, I would encourage you to develop one that has strong legs and stability underneath it. How many products have you seen in the market that have lasted a few months and they're gone? If they're consumer kind of products, you know why they're gone? They don't taste good. It's amazing what people will pay for if they taste good. But what happens is you go, oh man, I'm not going to drink that again. I don't care if they give it to me. So the issue is you got to have stability under that. But to really make a strong product move, you got to have the ability to line extend. Let me leave you this. The stronger the brand position or the share of market, the stronger the brand position or share of market, the greater the opportunity to create alternatives. Hence, let's look at Coca-Cola. Even though they're a mature market, and even though I grew up with Coca-Cola as Coca-Cola only, Coca-Cola was powerful enough to line extend. Diet Coke, caffeine-free Diet Coke, caffeine Coke, cherry Coke, all the combinations, right? They're line extending because they want to pick off those niche flavor markets. What happens though when you line extend? Now you're the marketing person, you got to figure out all these financial guru things to see how the bottom line is going to. So what happens when Coca-Cola line extends each time? Huh? Cannibalization. Gosh, Dee Dee, well, you're going to get a coupon for sure tonight. But cannibalization. So when you're a marketing person, you just don't go wild and say, I'm going to use this line extension and we're going to be that many more sales, because you're going to cannibalize what's out there already. I mean, I have a son that grew up on Coke, drinks about 5 or 6 a day, but he drinks 2 vanilla Cokes now a day instead of the Coke. There's the cannibalization right there. So I want you to keep in mind that when you're in marketing and you're designing line extension, be sure you understand there's cannibalization. Now, what is the benefit of line extension as opposed to developing a whole new different product line? Economy of scale. Because you got the same truck going to the same place, and now he's going to deliver 4 more cases of Diet Coke. If you went into cantaloupes, you'd have to have a whole different distribution system, whole different process. So what you want to do is, you, as a marketing person, and you're going to develop a product, you want to look to the utilization of your assets in your company. You can't come in with a big old bottle about this big and say, boy, this will be the next thing, and won't even run down the product line or the production line. You have to look at the logistics through that company. We're going to talk about that when we get to Monster. But do you see how Coca-Cola maneuvers that around? You need to understand the profile and the target audience anytime you're looking at a brand. You got to understand that profile. You know, that's why Tab did so well. Tab was a Coke product, and it really was marketed to women. You didn't, and then the males started complaining, where's our diet brand? Well, drink Tab. I wouldn't hold a pink can for anything. So the issue was, through a lot of negotiations, and I happened to be from the large bottler network, I was on the Diet Coke committee to bring out Diet Coke. 12 people, and I was a bottler to say, should we do it, shouldn't we do it, what's the taste? We marketed that not as a low-calorie product, because we wanted to reach the male, and all of you weren't even born when we did this, I don't think. But we marketed just for the taste of it. That was the slogan. See, because why? Diet products in those days had a taste element. So what we wanted to tell you, hey, it happens to have 0 calories, but it tastes good. So the point is, when you're looking at these kind of things, you got to focus and really get in on your target audience. All I can say is, anything you do in a macro sense in marketing, you got to think strategically. And you got to look at the kind of things. Now, did Coke look strategically? Well, you know, I always got a kick out of focus groups and marketing groups that go through thousands and thousands of dollars. And by the time they got back to me, I already did mine. And they'd come in for this presentation, 1 hour slideshow, and this is what the deal. But I already done. You know how I did my marketing presentations? I went out to our customers, and I said, would you recommend our product and our service to somebody? If they said yes, then we're doing something right. And I said, what flavors of my competitors sell the best? And I got that down. What package do you like the best? Cans or what? Well, they love cans because they'd stack more. And you know, he said, you come on cans, I give you more space. So here I'm doing my own survey in probably about a week. 3 months later, I get this presentation. Guess what they said? We ought to be in cans. Oh, what a surprise. But the point being is, you just ask the simple questions. You can't make, you can't make these things so complicated. And we'll talk about focus groups really pay off later in the presentation. But Coca-Cola is interesting because here we're talking about a worn out old brand, and all of a sudden the '84 Olympics come along. I was privileged to be on that Olympic committee representing Coca-Cola because we had a big investment in the Olympics. Coca-Cola has been the only soft drink that's sponsored the Olympics. It's always done on the back of an envelope with the Coca-Cola person and whoever's running the Olympics. Happened to be Peter Uberoff who's running the Olympics here. They sign on the back of an envelope, this is what we'll give you, and this is fine, good, let's have some dinner. Give it to our attorney over there, go fix it up. That's how that judgment came about. But now you're my marketing team at Coke. And I said, we got about 25 million or 30 million in this deal. And if we don't get a return, this will be the last speech I'll be giving to you guys. And so you are my marketing committee. So you got to get your head in the game and how we're going to get incremental sales to take care of that $25 million. This is about thinking strategically. So think out of the box. Study the Olympic plan and study LA, and what are we going to do about it? Well, number one that came in, these were all things we did. I got about 100 things, but these are the things we did. One of the things was, how do we sell more to our current customer base? Because what Jacob says, you want to utilize your system for the best economy of scale. Well, we used to have a 2-week ad and display in all the supermarkets 3 times a year. Do you know when those 3 times were? Okay, it's not. It ended up being the Super Bowl later, but you were close because Super Bowl wasn't a big deal. It was January. See, we're on a bell curve. January, February, March, April, and just look at your cold beverage consumption. Isn't it sort of like a bell curve? What do you say, Joseph?
July.
All right. Winter. Here's the bell curve. That's right. Labor Day, Memorial Day, and 4th of July. We got 2 weeks of a promotion in the store on every end. And all of you have been in supermarkets, you see these end displays, you pay for them, and you get. So here was by the way, one of the younger guys in our marketing department. Ages and everything, except in my case. I had that color of hair for a long time. Anyway, this is the deal, he said. Let's see if we can sustain those displays from the middle of May to the middle of September. Now, the Olympics were in July. And I said, okay, you better get the sales force in here. See, the worst thing we had is marketing would design something the sales force couldn't implement. So I said, well, give me the facts on that. He said, I got an idea. Let's design a Coca-Cola pin set that has all the countries in the world with Coca-Cola on them. A little pin set. And you know what a pin set is? If you don't, I'll bring it next time you have class. Okay, but it's a frame pin set. So he said, what we need to do is get 2 per store. We had about 1,600 stores. Give 1 to the manager. That was sort of bribery, and it was. And anyway, and then we had another one on the end with a box that everyone could sign their receipt after they checked out and go stick it in that box for a drawing for the other one. Every single supermarket in this town in Southern California had it up from mid-May to mid-September. Almost paid for our $25 million. Needless to say, he got a bonus. But the point was, that was a great idea. I didn't know we could execute it. So that happened. Now, how do you get awareness out there? You got to create awareness for your product. One of our guys studied the flow of traffic in LA, one-way streets. So what he did, he picked out the one-way streets and the big old hotels downtown that probably were built 100 years ago and all that, and went and said, hey, how would you like the side of your building painted? Bright colors. So we designed these big murals of track and field or swimming or weightlifting, and we put them on all these buildings where the one-way traffic was going. And we paid, those things stayed up for years. Years, not just the months, years. Then when they got so shabby, we sort of helped them, give them some money to paint it out. But it was really another coup. Then, now I ate lunch. Do you know where the Trojan Barrel is on the SC campus? It's a cafe on the campus, run independently. Owned by a gal named Julie. She's since passed away. And she owns Julie's, which is just down the street. So my marketing VP and I would go to lunch there about a couple times a month just to keep, she was a great Coke customer. So I said to her one day, she was about 80 some years old. She always had a cigarette, you've seen them, cigarettes hanging out of her mouth about this far of ashes. And I just wanted to go like that each time, but I didn't have the nerve. And she'd always settle up in our booth and puff on her cigarette. In those days, that's what you could do. And I said, Julie, man, you're gonna make a lot of money with the Olympics. She said, I'm getting out of here. I wouldn't be around, I wouldn't caught dead with all this traffic. I said, okay, so sorry to hear that, but I think you could do pretty good. So we get in the car and we're driving back to the office, and my marketing guy says, you know what we ought to do? We ought to rent her place for the Olympics. And we ought to get some vans and have our customers park at our lots in downtown LA. We're only 10 minutes from the Trojan Barrel. Drop them off there because we had events at swimming, boxing, diving, track and field. We're all there. And they could come in, we could serve them breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And so if they had a 9 o'clock event and then a 2 o'clock event, they had a place to stay. We had couches and the whole thing. But he said, we got to remodel the back of her whole deal into a garden and patio and umbrellas. I said, okay, let's go back next week and present it to her. So we did. He had a little drawing with him. And she said, well, I think that'd be great. I said, we'll remodel this whole thing, and you get the remodel. I'm going to charge you for that. And on the other side, she said, well, yeah, but I got all these great photos of all these SC athletes. I said, we'll bring in a professional group that'll take them down, box them, keep them until the thing's over, and go put them back up. So she says, great. So I said, we need it for about 30 days. So we'll pay you $1,000 a day for 30 days to utilize that, and top of doing with it. She said, that sounds great. And of course, you know what sounds great meaning? I got to talk to my attorney. So she calls me back 2 days later, says, I think we got a deal. I says, great. She said, the difference is that we need 200,000, not 30. I said, 200,000? Yeah. He calculated, you guys are going to, really clean up in this deal. I said, if we can make 200,000, you can. Why don't you stay around? No. Anyway, we negotiated the deal down a little bit, but not much. But we had every single senior customer there, chairman of the board, president of every single company we did business with. And so my work schedule was 6 in the morning at the shop. I'd get over there about 10 o'clock, greet those people coming in for lunch, stay there till about 4 or 5. Then we took customers out every day for 23 straight days. You don't think I was tired. But the real issue was the thought process, how do we take our brand and how do we solidify it with the customer? The reason I'm telling you that story, you'll study a lot in your marketing analysis and things, and I think it's right. You got to know what competition's doing. But if you own the customer, you can do a lot of things because that customer's loyal to you. And competition can come in and beat you, but you got to know what they're doing. You don't have to follow them, and you don't have to do those kind of things. So the issue is that was another break for us. The other thing is we rented, or we took over, or we bought every room for 30 days at the Sheraton Grand Hotel downtown LA. Every room. Flew in customers from all over the world and had events for them. Then one of our guys said, we need to get 6 restaurants, high-class restaurants, the highest-class restaurants in LA. And that was Chasen's at that time and Jimmy's, and take 8 seats every night, guaranteed. In case nobody came, we'll cut a deal with them on how much they charge us per seat. So we did that. And of course, we could tell them, we got a chauffeur for you, we'll take you to this restaurant, and they loved it. But my other marketing guy came in and said, yeah, we got to parlay this. I said, well, how are we going to parlay this? He says, we need a bus bench program. Now, you could have come in and told me anything about marketing. Don't mention bus bench programs to me. You know what bus bench programs are? You see the ads on the back of them? And they look trashy. They don't maintain them. The whole thing really looks disarray. And they knew that I didn't like outdoor and I didn't like bus benches. Anyway, I said, you got about 5 minutes of job security to tell me what you mean about bus benches. So anyway, he said, I got a company that's developed solar paneling for the back of those bus benches. And so it'll, of course, glow at night. None of the bus benches glow at night, right? And I said, well, great, but those bus benches face the buildings and nobody's going to see them unless they're walking. Now, I said, I got another idea. He said, I got a trucking company that'll truck these bus benches anywhere we want in the city any night. Oh, guess where we put them? Right outside Chasen's, right outside these restaurants, and you came out to wait for your car, look what was facing you. Coke, Diet Coke, Tab, Sprite. Glowing. Beautiful. And so as they stood there and watched, we got, $1 million worth of images. We put 8 of them in the Dodger Stadium. Well, there's no bus stops going into Dodger Stadium. I mean, they just moved those things all over town. I didn't even want to know where they were. But the point being is, that was an innovative way to get a lot of images and awareness of our brand. When you really look at it, We probably spent $25 million and probably made double that back. But it wasn't the bottom line. It was the thought process in the marketing department that we challenged the creativity and innovation. That is entrepreneurship. And the only thing that drove in that company is every department must be an entrepreneur. Every department. You got to be thinking, if you're in accounts receivable, if you're accounts payable, if you're in purchasing, you got to be an entrepreneur. This is your business. Tell us how to do it better. And that's where the entrepreneurship comes in a huge company, is little pieces and a little part of the company. So you want to keep that in mind when you're in marketing. You want to be an entrepreneur. So as things would have it, we sold our company back to the Coca-Cola company. We were owned by Beatrice Foods. Beatrice Foods owned about 550 companies, and we were one of them. They sold us back to the Coca-Cola company, who in turn took a company public called CocaCola Enterprises, and we were part of that group. I left that company because they centralized the management in Atlanta, and that wasn't really what I had in mind. And so very, very nice break, and that's when I was approached by some guys to say, why don't we buy Hanson's? Well, I tried to buy Hanson's twice when I was at Coke. I wanted Hanson's for the school business because it's an all natural, no caffeine. It really is what the school should have had in those days. But they wouldn't sell. Anyway, the Hanson people decided that they were going to expand. Now, they were making a ton of money in La Mirada. Can you believe they had a little business here in La Mirada? But they thought they should build a Taj Mahal out in City of Industry, which they did. Millions of dollars in this plant. And all on a promise from the Japanese, that the Japanese would give them a lot of business to ship in the Pacific Rim. That never came to fruition. So, of course, they couldn't pay their bills. They had to turn that company upside down, and they really had to file Chapter 11. So we put a bid in for that company, and we were outbid by another group, and I didn't think we were going to really get it because we did a pretty good due diligence on it. The other group outbid us by about $10 million, so I mean, it wasn't like, gee, if we'd have bid another $5, we'd have got it. So anyway, the group that got it called me, said, hey, I see you have a management team and you guys have been pros at it. Do you want to come in and take a look at our company? Managing it for us. So I said, yeah, we'll come in and take a look at it. So we did, and we took an equity stake in the company. I brought a management team in, a marketing guy, sales guy, a production guy, and so we went in to hopefully turn this company around. And it was really fun because one of my first calls was from a guy who had 12 little tiny supermarkets. Now I have to get distribution. I mean, I have to go out and find these customers. And I'm sort of the sales guy and the whatever guy. And I had a nice visit with this guy. He had a little sailor hat on, quite a character. And he said, you know, we'll carry you exclusive. I said, exclusive, great. And I said, the problem is I don't have any money. And I said, we'll produce it, but I need a purchase order from you so I can give it to my whoever's producing, so I can get the raw materials, so I can produce it and ship it to you. He said, I'll pay you every Friday. He said, I'll pay you every Friday, I'll give you cash flow. Well, that guy's name was Joe Colon. Joe Colon was Trader Joe. And so that started our romance with Trader Joe's. Now we're in probably 250 Trader Joe's. And I was privileged to serve on their 12-man executive committee to analyze their business. And it was quite a business. They're now owned by a company out of Germany. But Joe he had all this down. I mean, in his head is what you see Trader Joe's today. Maybe not the expanded lines, but he knew exactly what he wanted, and he wanted an all-natural meal. So that's what got me into the Hanson business. So how do we grow this business? And that's a toughie because Hanson's, we have to go through a distributor network, and they weren't making enough money. So when you go around town, you can't find Hanson's as such in every single nook and cranny like you can Coke. But we needed the sales and the boost. And so then I called in another guy that was interesting, a guy named Saul Price. Saul Price was Price Club, the precursor to Costco. And he said, I like your product. Let's put it in. So that's how we built the Hanson into the business. So again, we had to pay off a lot of debts, and we had ability to finance the company through some guys that came in and said, we have an empty shell on the stock market. An empty shell doesn't always mean good, means there could be a lot of creditors against it, but this one was a clean shell. And that was under another name, so we could roll Hansen's into that. That's what's called Hansen Beverage Corp. And that's what we did in 1992. We took the company public at about 75 cents a share. So based on that, we worked hard to try to build the company, and I think we got it up to 85 million in sales, and did make some decent profit. And then along came a small can out of Austria called Red Bull. And we watched this come in. They were flying the product in from Austria, by the way. They were not producing it here, so we knew it was very expensive. But that was a blessing to us because they got a lot of money for it. And so we watched this little tiny can sell for $2 out there. So we said, man, if they can do it, we can do it. And this is leading us sort of into the next segment of how we got Monster started, because we said, we ought to put out a little can. Well, we put out a little can of Hansen energy drink. Well, that didn't really zing well, does it? We couldn't put caffeine in it. So how did we get people even dancing with that? So we had to have some really serious board meetings on what do we do. We are an all-natural company. We're sitting there with really a platter of these guys developing a market that we need to take a look at. We're a public company, and we have a fiduciary responsibility to stockholders. One of the toughest things a Christian in the marketplace faces, because you owe it to other people. That's their investment in your company, and you need to do the right thing. So anyway, the board of directors got together, and we had to figure out this little natural versus non-natural piece of business. So what we did, we set up a whole new division, and that time, and we called it the energy division. President over the energy division, sort of a Chinese wall down the middle between the two. We did some crossover G&A, but it sort of ran by itself. And so we justified in our own way that it wasn't going to compromise the natural piece of the business. And it didn't, by the way. I mean, the people that were the Trader Joe's and the Henrys and the Whole Foods and all these people, they could care less about this division. They wanted the stuff that we were giving them, all the natural juices.
We hope you enjoyed this message. Biola University offers a variety of biblically centered degree programs, ranging from business to ministry to the arts and sciences. Learn more at biola.edu.